seems to me that Republicans claim voting fraud and election integrity when you lose and not when you win. There were false claims about election fraud when Donald Trump lost. This time, Donald Trump won, and you think the election was free and fair. Do you see there's a little bit of a...
No, I think the Democrats got to ask, why did we go from getting 81 million to getting 70 million? What happened to those 10 million people? Maybe they need to, maybe it's not smart to run an election where you have no vision, no record to run on.
Do you believe
that
the 2024...
call the other side names?
What's going on, guys? We got to talk about the Crying Negro Network again, where Dana Trash is going toe-to-toe with based Jim Jordan over the 2024 election. Okay, so there's a lot of contentious discussion here, including her trying to say that the Republicans were delusional and, oh, you only accept election results when you win them, rather than acknowledging the fact that there's literally millions of votes missing this election as opposed to 2020, which strongly suggests that there was a lot of foolery going on, which obviously if you're watching this channel, you probably know that already, but the Democrats are going to keep denying it. So she is still in full-blown propaganda mode, and as long as they don't stop, I told you before, I'm not going to stop. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's go back to what you just brought up, which is the question about retribution. You also lead the weaponization of the federal government subcommittee. Trump has repeatedly threatened to prosecute Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Liz Cheney, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, General Mark Milley, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, New York AG Letitia James, and that's just some of the people he has talked about. Do you support him using the Justice Department to go after the people who disagree?
He didn't do it his first term. What I support is stopping.
Right, but this is a second term.
What I support is stopping this lawfare, stopping this political targeting, political cases. We all know the Fonnie Willis case, the Alvin Bragg case, and the Jack Smith cases were all driven by politics. The American people understood it. That's why they had this overwhelming win. One of the reasons this overwhelming win for President Trump. So I'm against the retribution. I'm against the Justice Department saying if you're a mom and dad showing up at a school board meeting, we're going to investigate you. I'm against the FBI putting together a memorandum at the Richmond field office which said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
So I just want to...
We want all that to stop.
I just want to put a button on this. So what you are saying is that all of the times that President Trump said so many things about people that he promised that he would go after them and prosecute them, you were going to encourage him not to do that?
Well, all I know is what he...
That's not, this isn't what Trump said. You see the way that they're trying to like frame this as though Trump said that he was going to politically target his opponents. But when Trump claims that his opponents are politically targeting him, they deny it and say that it's not happening. But they say when he says he's going to investigate them for fraud, including for politically targeting him, then they call it retribution. It can't be fair when they do it to Trump and there's no evidence of it being politically motivated. But then when Trump wants to investigate them, then, oh, it's politically motivated. You can't have it both ways. And it's just bad when Trump does something. These people are ridiculous.
He didn't do that.
I know, but we're talking about
lock her up. You know, he talked about his opponent in 2016, Secretary Clinton, talked about lock her up. He didn't do that. He didn't go. But the Democrats went after him.
I know, but I'm talking about Donald
what
Trump's
they did
second term.
I mean,
going forward. Since then, he has said many times.
I don't think any of that's going to happen because we're the party who's against political prosecution. We're the party who's against going after your opponents using lawfare. In fact, I think this is one of the issues that the
So it was
American
just a campaign rhetoric? It wasn't real?
Well, I think he's pointing out what's going on. The retribution, actually, Liz Cheney on January 6th went after President Trump, said things that weren't accurate, I think, in their report. The other individuals he's talked about have been part of this retribution going after President Trump. Never forget, it started clear back before he was in office. They spied on his campaign in 2016.
But I am not talking about...
for 8 years, they've been going after President Trump.
He won.
He sure did. He won big.
He won big. So my question, and what people want to know, is what he is going to do. Look,
see, she's saying what people want to know. No, Dana, people want to know what he's going to do. We know what he's going to do. We're not concerned about what you're talking about. She's talking about something else. The stuff that you're talking about now is stuff that nobody cares about. What people care about is how the economy is going to go, how illegal immigration is going to go, how these wars are going to go. We don't care about all this retribution stuff. The people that may care about that stuff are Democrats, but clearly, seeing as how Trump won the popular vote, it seems to me like you need to be concerned about what the actual popular vote people are talking about. The people who won the Electoral College and the popular vote, the people who have the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and the Supreme Court majority. You need to be worried about what those people are worried about, not whatever the hell it is you're talking about.
I think he's going to do.
Just for example,
I
2
think
days
he's gonna
ago,
do
he
this.
called for investigations
Dan, I think
into
he's gonna
anyone
do this.
spreading rumors.
I think he's going to secure the border. I think he's going to get rid of this crazy inflation that's hurting middle class and working class families, hurting our economy. I think he's going to get back to common sense energy policy. I think he's going to focus on protecting the First Amendment. I mean, think about this. Did you ever think you would see Donald Trump, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard on the same team? They were on the same team because of the attack on free speech, the attack on the First Amendment. He's going to focus on those things that the American people elected him to do.
Okay. I mean, there are a lot of, I want to move on to immigration. There are a lot of things that you just said that I think aren't totally fact-based. So they say that they're for free speech, but there are a lot of things that we know are not happening. I want to ask about immigration.
Came together.
Well,
all
maybe.
Because of the attacks on the First Amendment, on free. This is something our committee spent a bunch of time. We understand that there was censorship. We pointed that out.
Let's turn to immigration. Top Trump.
I like how you want to say, well, I don't know if that's accurate, but you don't get specific, Dana. Don't be vague. Get specific. Nobody trusts you already. That's why I call you Dana Trash, because your coverage is trash. And I think you're a trash person for having trash coverage and calling everybody else non-factual when you're sitting up here spewing phony propaganda each and every single day. I don't care how much they pay you. But with you in particular, I don't think it's an act with you. I think this is real. With you, just let me know if you're just the greatest actor of all time, because I think that you're being totally real when you say these things. I don't think you're one of these fake news actors and actresses like on MSDNC. I think these folks on CNN, some of them like Trash over here, is being dead serious.
Stephen Miller says that mass deportations of undocumented immigrants will begin as soon as Donald Trump takes office. I want to play this out for the American people so that they understand what exactly is going to happen. First of all, he takes office. Who's targeted first?
Well, he's already said that. People who have migrants here who committed crimes, criminal.
How are you going to find them?
The ones who committed crimes, you go after them. We've had.
But I mean, like who actually?
Whose daughter was killed. We've had Rachel Morin's family who came in and talked.
How are they going to be found? Or is it going to be the military? Is it going to be local law enforcement?
1.3 million migrants have already had their asylum case adjudicated, been in front of a judge, and the judge says you do not qualify under the law. We're the party of the rule of law. Those 1.3 million, they don't qualify under the law.
My question is how you get them.
They're supposed to be removed. They have a removal order. You start there. You start with the criminals. You start with the people who've already been.
I want to understand. So people say, like, let's say one of these people is living in their apartment complex. Is the military going to come in? Is it the local law enforcement? How is it actually physically going to work?
The Trump administration, the Department of Homeland Security will work with local law enforcement, and we'll focus on the people who 1.3 million already been in front of a judge and said, no, you're not entitled to stay here. You have to be removed. There's an order there, a court of law. They've had
what Dana is trying to do, as a propagandist she's trying to paint a negative picture of somebody kicking down somebody's door, removing them from wherever they live, putting them on a bus, putting them on a plane, putting them on a boat and sending them off somewhere, as if what they're doing is cruel to these people. But here's the thing about this. It is a crime to enter the country illegally. For crimes, you get punishment. The punishment is take your ass back home. It's that simple. I don't care about this bleeding heart charitable stuff. I don't care if you're kicking down doors. I don't give a damn if you separate families. I don't care. If you run the risk when you come over. Imagine if you take and you shoot somebody. You kill, you hurt somebody, and then they take you to jail. You're separated from your family because you can't be with your family no more. They try to act like you're the bad guy for punishing people for committing crimes. It doesn't make sense, guys. These people are stupid.
Due process. They've had the whole process played out.
So let's move on beyond that population. Non-criminals, people who are in the country who are not legal citizens.
He just covered this. He just said some people had their court case adjudicated, and they said that they didn't qualify for asylum. Take your ass home. It's that simple. What's so complicated about this?
Those who have not committed crimes.
We're starting with the criminal element.
I know, but
and
after
the 1.3. Well, we'll start there and then go from that point. But again, this was clear in the election. This was one of the top issues. President Trump had the greatest political comeback in history. Won 30 states, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won an electoral college landslide. This was one of the big issues. He's told the American people he's going to do it.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm asking how it's going to work.
This is how I believe it'll start. And remember, they told him in his first term, oh, he couldn't do certain things. He got them done. I'm convinced he'll get it done, but I also am convinced he's going to start with the criminal element and the 1.3 million who've already been in front of a judge, and the judge says you have to be removed.
Ultimately, will it be 15 to 20 million as he promised on the campaign trail?
Well, we will see. What I know is if you send that message, I think that is so good for securing our border, which the country wants. Just the opposite of what the Biden administration did. Biden and Harris administration came in on day one and said, no more building the wall, no more remain in Mexico, and when you get here, you will not be detained, you will be released, and 10 million came in. So the country rightly said, oh, let's put a stop to that, and the place to begin is with the criminal element and the 1.3 million.
I always want to point out that that's the known, like, what conservatives need to do is don't, like, short sell the number and be like, oh, it's, it's like, oh, just, 10 million. The actual number that's known is already at least 12 million. The estimated number is well over 20 million. It's extremely likely that estimated number is true, but they don't like quoting it because they don't like these stupid fact checks that they got to deal with from the fake news. But the radical left don't diminish how many people they let into this country. Like, this is serious business. It should be assumed that there's way more than we know. These are just the gotaways that we're talking about.
Already been adjudicated.
So the last question I want to ask about this are the dreamers. There are an estimated 3.6 million people who were brought into this country illegally by their parents. They were too young to know the difference. Many of them know no other home but the United States. Do you believe that ultimately they too should be removed?
Again, President Trump's going to start where I said. If you're talking about kids, you're talking about young people, the real question is the 200 and some thousand that the Biden-Harris administration allowed in and don't know where these kids are.
My question is about the dreamers.
That's the real question. No. The American people spoke clearly on this.
Congressman, that's a separate issue. I'm asking about the dreamers.
See, everything that Dana asks is always something where she's trying to paint conservatives negatively. She doesn't want to talk about the 325,000 missing migrant children at all. She doesn't want to talk about it. I don't think she's ever talked about it. And she doesn't want to talk about it now either. She clearly knows about it, but she doesn't want to talk about that. I wonder why.
There are a lot of people who know no other home but the United States. Will they ultimately, should they ultimately
send their ass home? Send their ass home, all of them. The parents shouldn't have brought them here. If they're born here, okay, maybe they're stuck here. That's how the law works. But if they were not born here, send them home. I don't care. See, Jim Jordan, like, you're being soft, Jim. Let's keep going.
Once the law enforced, we'll start with where we started, and then that question will be addressed later on, I believe. But right now, we need to start with the criminal element and the 1.3 million.
Okay, let's talk about the election, because in the run-up to the election, even on election night itself, Donald Trump baselessly accused Democrats of cheating. As soon as the result...
Guys, do y'all have an X account? Because they caught... there's so many things that they caught them doing. People filling out ballots for other people, doing ballot stuffing, telling people to get out of line, closing down polling locations. Like, they had voter suppression. They had machines not working. They had power outages. They had all kinds of stuff. And that was just this election. But the last election, that was just a mail-in ballot fiasco. With a lot of places, no voter ID or nothing. Like, you just send ballots in from any and everywhere. These people are stupid for even, if you try to claim that the 2020 election was a fair election, or like one dummy said, the most safest and fairest election in United States history, then you are just an effing retard, point blank period, because there is no possible way to secure that election. And unfortunately, the Republicans were totally unprepared to secure it. This time they were, and I believe that if they weren't, they probably would have lost in a similar fashion again.
Started to come in and showed them going his way, he stopped. Silence. Nothing about that. I haven't seen you or your colleagues claiming any election irregularities, no rampant voting fraud this time. It seems to me that Republicans claim voting fraud and election integrity when you lose and not when you win.
No, I mean, again, as I said before, this election, I think, was the greatest political comeback we've ever seen. I mean, he did something that even Teddy Roosevelt couldn't do, for goodness sake. And the country.
But you think it was a free and fair election?
No. This election, you just interviewed the Latino, I think, restaurant owner or a restaurant worker, and he said he was tired of all the woke stuff. This election was real simple. You had back-to-back administrations. We got something we very seldom get in American history, American politics. Back-to-back administrations now running for the top job, and people could do a direct comparison. And they said, we like what we had under President Trump versus.
But last time around,
we like the safe streets versus the record
last
crime.
time around, your leader claimed that there were problems with
secure
fraud.
border versus the open border.
Right, those are policies.
That's what this election was about.
That's totally fair. But last time around, it wasn't so much about the policy differences or the personality differences. There were false claims about election fraud when Donald Trump lost. This time, Donald Trump won, and you think the election was free and fair. Do you see there's a little bit of a...
No, I think the Democrats got to ask, why did
there?
we go from getting 81 million to getting 70 million? What happened to those 10 million people? Maybe it's not smart to run
millions of people deficit. Have you guys seen the chart? I don't know if I'm going to be able to find one to edit into this video. But there's like literal charts where they show the average of votes is roughly around 70-ish million, 69 million, something like that, between Obama in 2008 and 2012, and then you jump to Kamala Harris, and it's about the same thing, like maybe 71 million, and then Joe Biden, it's like 81 million votes. You telling me that 10 million people decided not to come out and vote for Kamala Harris this time? That doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. And these people don't want to see pattern recognition. They don't want to see any type of fraud or suppression that could impact conservatives. They don't care. They just want to keep this narrative going so they don't have to fess up to the possibility or own up to the possibility that there could have been voter fraud. As a matter of fact, voter fraud was proven in numerous, it's like tons of instances, thousands of instances of it. It's just whether or not it's enough to overturn the election is the key point. They usually say widespread. Dana, I don't think said widespread this time, but widespread is the key word that they use to try to diminish it. But we all know that it happened. You probably know people that have been able to get away with some nonsense that they shouldn't have been doing.
Election where you have no vision, no record to run on.
Do you believe
that
the 2024 election was free and fair?
I do.
And why was it different from 2020 when he lost? Is that the only difference?
No, there were concerns about 2020 with all the mail-in voting that happened. You know, Pennsylvania had like 2-point-something million mail-in ballots come in without any signature verification, which was required under Pennsylvania statute. So there were all kinds of concerns with how the 2020 election was carried out.
You just asked for an example, Dana. And what, you going to debate the example too?
The biggest question Democrats need to be asking, what happened to the 10 million voters that Joe Biden got that didn't come out for Kamala Harris? A bunch of them, President Trump's numbers were right up where they were in 2020, but the Democrats were much lower. I think it's because they had no vision, no record to run on, and they just wanted to call everyone names. Turns out when you tell people, oh, you're fascist, racist, deplorable garbage, they don't like that. And then when you use lawfare to go after their candidate, they don't like that either.
Well,
that's why they came out. So on top of the economy, on top of the price of gas, on top of the inflation, that's why they voted for President Trump.
What a partisan hack. This lady never says anything bad about Democrats. All that they're feeding off of is negativity and spinning narratives, and that's what they're going to continue to do, guys. That's why they're so threatened. You could tell, you could sense and feel the anger and the vitriol coming from Dana Trash. You could sense all of it. She decided that she was going to get the last word I wouldn't let Dana try to get the last word here, because at the end of the day, the American people got the last word. You guys lost partially because of the fake news, partially because people don't believe in your lies, all the negativity surrounding Trump. You can't just say, well, because Trump said bad things, it's okay to call him Hitler and his supporters Nazis and garbage. You effing idiot. No, seriously, you got to ask yourself, are you stupid? If you don't point out, if you want to point something out negative on one side and you're the news media, I can see if you had a YouTube channel like this, but even then you should be fair. But if you're the news media, the respected mainstream news, you should point out problems and stuff that happens on one side and on the other side, not just the Republicans are doing everything wrong, most of which is just a bunch of made up BS anyway. That's why you can see the bitterness in Dana here. You can sense the fact that she is upset that her fake news propaganda was not enough to get Kamala Harris elected, and it would never be enough to get her elected because she sucks. It's that simple. Donald Trump has so much negativity surrounding him in this campaign, and these dummies still weren't able to beat him, even with all their fake news propaganda lies. So ha, Dana, and that's why her name stays Dana Trash. These people don't even deserve the time of day on this channel to begin with, because of how garbage these takes are and how partisan this news is. It's to the point of being totally ridiculous. And I can't believe anybody even watches this garbage. I feel like it would just melt and rot your brain watching these propagandists speak every day. And that's why they got so many people that's upset and hollering and crying and freaking out now, because they actually listen to these weirdos, these liars on fake news CNN, crying, Negro Network. Those are just my thoughts. So let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate y'all watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
I'm sorry, Dana Bash. I'm disappointed. You've failed us. You've failed the profession and the country.